Hey everyone, in this video I want to show you a couple tips and tricks how to create a disk mesh in Houdini. I think we already done a couple of those meshes previously. However, a few people are struggling with creation of this disk mesh, especially if it involves using the Houdini Labs tools, because sometimes those tools are buggy and you need to update those or roll back to the previous version. However, obviously there is probably a couple methods to create that disk mesh and not rely on Labs tools from VFX. Okay, so first we're going to use actually VFX. I'm going to show you exact version I've got of the VFX Labs in Houdini, and then I'm going to show you alternative methods how you can create this disk mesh not using actually the VFX Labs. And I'm using that mesh mainly for anything that happens on the ground. So you can see impact here. I got actually I think 2 disk meshes there with the various texture on it. Alright, so let's dive into Houdini, and after Houdini it will be just a quick jump into Substance where I show you how to create just a circular texture like this, because I'm using this for that shockwave on impact. Okay, so I've got all 3 setups here. So let's go back. I'm gonna disable this one and let's create a geometry. Disk underscore scratch. And in here, let's first start with a disk generator from Labs. Okay, so I'm gonna drop it here and let's take a look at my Labs version as well. So VFX Labs, update toolset, and this is my current version of it. So you might have different options here. It depends which version you have. If you can't see those and you would like to have those, I probably would suggest to roll back and see if you can get this version of the VFX Labs. Otherwise, let's continue with this, and then 2 other methods. We're gonna create that disk mesh without actually using VFX Labs. All right, so the first one is the disk generator. I'm going to ramp up the segments maybe to 50. Okay, that's the curve map ramp. So maybe I'm just gonna make this somewhere around maybe 0.2. I'm gonna change this to a Bezier. Okay, so we're having very nice smooth curvature here. I think maybe that top one could go slightly down, so it's just slightly curved, and that bottom piece just gonna make it flat. Okay, next I would like to apply some vertex colors here and on the edge as well, so we can use it as an alpha to get rid of or erode that texture using the vertex colors. Next I'm gonna use axis align just to place it on the grid. Let's check the UVs. Okay, so this Labs disk generator creates UVs for us automatically, which is pretty cool. Next, I'm gonna create a UV project node. I'm gonna change my attribute UV to UV2, and now I'm gonna switch to UV2 here, and now we have just a top projection of it in case you have a radial texture you would like to apply to that disk mesh. So very simple. And finally, I'm just gonna add transform, and that will be my engine scale. And in here, I'm going to increase the uniform scale to 50 and null, and that will be for export. You can select this node, go to File, Export Filmbot FBX, and just export that mesh. Okay, that will be the first setup, and obviously I'm going to get those two nodes somewhere around here, because we're going to apply exactly the same scale to that for the other meshes we're going to create next. Okay, let me center it, and let's create the that same mesh or very similar mesh using a different method. And this time I'm actually going to use sphere. So sphere, default one, those are my settings, you can see. I'm going to enable it, and here I'm just going to use clip. Okay, for the clip I'm going to reverse the axis to -1. I'm going to bring this slightly to this value, maybe 0.2. I think 0.2 was okay. I'm going to increase the resolution of it, maybe to 50. Next, I'm going to use transform just to flatten that shape. I'm going to apply maybe 0.2 here. And next, as you can see, seems like my UVs are inverted. So I'm going to get the reverse node. Sorry, not the UVs, the normals. And next, I'm going to add the axis align node just to place it on the grid. Let me preview our other disk so we can match it in size. So in here, I'm just going to go to that sphere, increase the uniform scale. It doesn't need to be perfect, but roughly around the same scale. And here I can now tweak the clip in case I want to slightly increase it. Okay, so I want to go somewhere around here. I'm going to disable the reference because I don't need it anymore. It kind of matches the scale. Next, I'm going to apply. First, maybe let's create UV. So that'll be UV project. Let me preview it. Okay, so that's the top down. So I'm just going to apply UV2 because we want those to be on UV2 channel. You can reapply the UVs just in case for the best plane. Next, I'm just going to copy UV project, paste it. And in here, I'm going to change it to UV rather than UV2, change the coordinates to polar. And here you can pick the best plane, but I would advise you to actually pick it manually, the one that's the best. This one seems to be okay. However, we would like to normalize those UVs, so I'm gonna get UV transform next. It operates with the UV attribute, not UV2, and this is exactly what I want. And in here for the scale, I'm just gonna keep 1 here. I'm gonna add a slash to it, $, size X with capitals. I'm going to copy this, paste it to Y, but I'm going to replace X with a Y, and it's going to normalize my UVs. Okay, so we're having exactly the same UVs. Let's check. That's channel 2, that's channel 1, and all we can do now is to apply maybe the vertex colors next. Okay, so let me dive into perspective. I'm going to grab a gradient, color gradient. I'm gonna pick, and maybe first I'm gonna compute range, and in here I'm gonna pick radial. As you can see, end position is set to 5 by default. However, this I think the end point here is just 1, so I'm gonna replace this with 1. And now we have a vertex color black here at the center. I'm gonna move that slider towards the center, and at the end I'm gonna apply black again, and you can control how much of that vertex color you need. I'm gonna leave it as it is. I'm just gonna reference again our previous mesh, so they seems to be similar. If you want to optimize it slightly, you can just go to your sphere and reduce the number or increase the number if you need. for the divisions. And finally, I'm just gonna apply it to the engine scale, and this is our second method. And finally, let's dive into our third method. Next, I'm gonna grab grid. I'm gonna make the size 1 by 1. I'm gonna increase the columns. I'm gonna apply first bend, and in here, and actually need axis align as well. Okay, in here I'm gonna set this to min. I don't need changing anything on Y, and in here I'm gonna set it to max, and on that bend I'm gonna put 360 here. I'm gonna change the ab vector axis to here, 0 this one, and put 1 here as well. Okay, so with those settings we should get what you can see on the screen right now. And now I can go back here and tweak those settings. Okay, so I'm just trying to increase this one manually to see where it's gonna merge. So it seems like it might be, well, let's make it 1.6. I'm gonna enable points as well, so I can see. As you can see, we've got plenty of points here. I'm gonna use fuse next to combine them all together, and I'm gonna increase the snap distance slightly. Okay. Let me preview the whole mesh. So this is what we've got. And before this maxes align, I'm gonna actually apply another bend here while previewing the whole mesh, and I'm just gonna try to increase it like this. I'm going to increase the capture length as well, and I'm going to actually apply minus value, so minus 180. Okay, I'm going to apply different axes. Just to check which one might be working for me. Alright, so let's actually go back to that bend, and I'm trying to raise this upwards a little bit. So let me start over. I've got this. I'm gonna set the up vector to that one. I think this is what I'm looking for. I hope. Let me check. Nope. So let's go back. And let's change the direction of it, maybe here. Sorry, capture direction. Perfect. Let's now check. Okay, so I think we have to revert that one or invert it. So I'm going to put -1. Perfect. And this is what we have. I'm going to increase the capture length of it. So I think this method might be not as accurate as the other ones, mainly because I feel like we're getting a very flat area here. Okay, let me maybe try to put my -2 here, but that's not gonna work. Yeah, so I think the other methods are still better, however, in case you need that one as well. That's how we can create this with a grid plane. Let me reference the other one so we can match the size of it. Now I'm going to apply axis align to center it. Whoops. Now we can play with that first bend a little bit. So I'm going to put maybe 140 here, 170, 180. I'm going to increase the capture length slightly or minimize, depends how much I want this to affect my mesh. I'm going to go to my, or actually I can get transform next, and I can slightly increase the uniform scale and maybe squash on the height axis. Perfect. So once we have this, let's see if we can maybe just copy our whole UV system that we've created for our sphere method. I'm just going to apply it there, and disable the reference, and let's calculate it through. I think I've got reference still activated. Okay. And with this one, let's preview the UVs if they're working correctly. Okay, so they're not. So UV2, I think that's UV2. I'm gonna initiate UV projection, so that one is working. Now let's go back to the first UV, which is that one. Let's initialize it as well here. Go through our UV transform and maybe try a different method of applying the UVs. I think the first one is perfect. And let's preview our vertex color, and that one's working as well. And we have a system here just to apply the engine scale to it. Okay, so that's the latest one we've done. That's from the sphere, and that one is from the labs tool. As you can see, they are very similar, just a different method of creating those. Let me maximize the screen, zoom in so you can get the full view of it in case you need it. Okay, I hope that one helped you a little bit. And next, let's just dive to Substance when I show you how to create this very simple circle texture for the shockwave. Because I like to have a lot of control over those textures made in Substance, I want to start with a shape. Here I'm gonna squash it down, or rather extract like just a strip from that shape. Next I'm gonna use a shape mapper to wrap it around the circle. I'm gonna use just one pattern. Now I can control the radius. I'm gonna go with default here, and if you go back to shape now, you can see you have a full control over the thickness of it, and also in case you want to create different shapes, you can use it this size as well. All right, next I'm going to apply slight blur to it, just a little bit. I don't want too much, so maybe value of 3. Next I'm going to use slope blur, and I'm going to get another shape here. I'm going to pick soft circle. Okay, that one, and in here I'm going to increase the samples. I'm going to use different method, and maybe max. I think max is going to work best, and this is what we want. Next I'm going to use transform because I would like to get a bit more soft glow around it, so I need to shrink this texture down. I'm going to hold Alt and Shift on my keyboard, and with the mouse click I'm going to shrink it down manually. I'm going to disable tiling here, and I'm just going to grab my slope blur again and ramp up the intensity of it. You can try different methods as well here if you like. I'm just going to keep it a max. And I think that's it. That's how you create this shockwave. Okay, a couple things we could do. For example, if you want this one, or rather this one, but I would like to apply just a little bit glow around it, you can just use a blur with higher intensity, maybe 30, or that's too much, maybe 25. Then you can take back your original texture here and set it to max, and now you have an opacity slider of how much you actually want to apply that glow. However, it's going to apply to the center as well, but maybe this is something you need, so that'll be one method, but the other one is actually use that texture instead. Okay, you can play still with the intensity of that blur slope if you need. I'm just gonna keep it like this, and yeah, just a simple texture you can apply on that disk we've created in Houdini. All right, thank you so much for watching.